Good morning, friends. For Swami's special birthday today, I'd like to share this whisper from eternity. It's called Demand for the Opening of Spiritual Temple Doors Everywhere.
O Father, when I was blind, I found not the door which led to Thee. But now that Thou hast opened my eyes, I find doors everywhere. Through the hearts of flowers, through the voice of friendship, through sweet memories of all lovely experiences. Every gust of my prayer opens a new door in the vast temple of Thy presence.
I thought that was such a beautiful and touching whisper through the heart of flowers. Reminded me of the tulip festival that we just had here at Ananda Village. Some 20,000 tulips were planted and some 20,000 people came. In fact, I heard a rumor that people were searching for their particular tulip. No, I don't think that's happening, but maybe we'll pick that up next year. You know, this is a very special day, being Swami Kriyananda's birthday, and I was astounded when I saw the topic for Sunday service, activity versus inner communion. That sort of encapsulates the life of Swamiji. In fact, his guru, Paramhansa Yogananda, said to him, I'm sure many of you recall this, your life will be one of intense activity and meditation. And Swami used to say that he thought it was significant that he put the intense activity first because, as we know, he had a dynamically intense life. But it was without tension. I think a lot of times we forget that intensity means, as Yogananda said, you may have seen that video of him where he goes into samadhi and he says, now I lift up my eyes to go into the superconscious bliss by higher inner relaxation. And that was Swami's life. It was this higher inner relaxation. I remember when I first met Swami on the East Coast, I was so thrilled. I had found Autobiography of a Yogi, and I had read one of his books, at The Essence of Self-Realization. And there was this little quote of Yogananda in there. If your mind is troubled by desires, don't worry. When ecstasy comes, everything goes. And I happened to live at that time right above an Italian deli that made fresh mozzarella every day. And they had a quote in there. And it reminded me exactly of this quote of Yogananda. It said, the taste of a good mozzarella is long remembered after price is forgotten. And it was true. It was really good mozzarella. Not to digress on that, but when I first met Swami, I actually told him about this because I found it thrilling that there was this mundane correlation to the teachings of self-realization. And Swami just was with delight. I think maybe he thought, who is this guy talking about? But this is what Yogananda taught. This is what Swami led through his life of example. Bring that fresh cheese, so to speak, the perception of God, into everything that you do. Put your Mary into your Martha. That was Swami. Meaning, Mary, of course, here is absorbed at the feet of Christ, right? She's taking in the vibrations, and the Martha is that part of us that's, come on, I need help with the setup. Where is everybody? What's going on? Why aren't people here? It's that part of us that forgets. Christ was rebuking wrong attitude there. And so there was an amazing miracle that I had with this service. I'm sure many of you read, Nayaswami Devi wrote this beautiful blog called The Generosity of Light that came out on Friday in honor of Swami's birthday. And I had read that story. I opened up the autobiography of a yogi randomly a couple of weeks before, and I read that story. It's where Sri Yukteswar says to Yogananda, why don't you start an organization? And Yogananda says, organizations are hornets' nests. The leader is always criticized. Forget about it. And then Sri Yukteswar gives him this stern glance and says, were it not for a line of generous-hearted masters that gave you this yoga teaching, where would you be? Do you want the divine chana, the milk curd, all to yourself? And that's when Yogananda, he said he didn't respond outwardly, but he made an adamant resolution in his heart at that time. And his prayer that we say, oh, Lord, may thy reign on the sanctuary of my devotion, and may I be able to awaken your love in other hearts. That same, and then Devi shared this story, that this was the same light that Swami Kriyananda shared in. When he found the autobiography, he had that desire. He was so thrilled, right? He had that enthusiasm. This is it. And yet that wasn't enough for him. He said, this is so... he knew it was the truth, and he wanted to share it with everyone. Swami wrote in Religion in the New Age about this movie, I forget the name of it, When My Dreams Come. There's a scene in the movie about people that have committed suicide, and they're depicted in this hellish region, and the people who have done good are in these astral regions. And Swami said, when I saw that movie, I couldn't help but relate more to the people in the hellish regions and want to help them, because the people in the astral regions were just kind of passively enjoying sort of this astral dream. The natural compassion of his heart was to help people. Yogananda's vibrations that he said, that he emanated, were divine love, joy, and wisdom. And all of, like Ananta shared yesterday, all of Krishna's soldiers are like Krishna. Swamiji shared in that same vibration. He was always trying to, I thought that was beautiful how Devi said it in her blog, that Hanel Cassidy, he helped people garden here in the early days, and he said that all of life is sustained by a millimeter of the sunlight hitting the soil and the microorganisms in the soil. That's how plants come. That's how life is sustained on earth. And she was making this analogy to Swamiji and to the great ones, right? They shower that light. And what is the soil? Lord, I pray that someday love come back to this land, that men may understand. The soil is our hearts. Are we receptive? Are we open to that light? And then the microorganisms can be through the practices of Kriya Yoga and right living that our darkness is transformed into light. It's the greatest spiritual alchemy. And Swami was always trying to reach people where they were. If you think of a book, many of us know it, some won't, called Out of the Labyrinth. He first wrote it as Crises in Modern Thought, that there is this thought pattern, still very prevalent, that life is meaningless. Everything's relative, so there's no meaning. And Swami said he had the temptation when he realized that this was a rampant, sort of misconception in the world, that he would just sort of wanted to throw it off as just stupid logic. And he said no, he had to go into the camp of the enemy, so to speak, and use their logic and try to see from their point of view, but then invite them, well, if everything's meaningless, Swamiji just flipped it. He said, what if we look at everything as having meaning, as matter being an expression of consciousness, as everything moving towards this evolution of greater and greater joy. So this is the kind of soul that he was. He was always trying to reach people where they were. He never imposed. And he exercised incredible kindness and compassion. I remember one time that he needed some books over at the Crystal Hermitage, and so I had to bring some book. Whenever there was a reason to go see Swamiji, you jumped at the chance. So I brought him these books, I forget what it was, and he was having lunch with his cousin Bet at that time. And I brought in these books to Swami, and I had this gardenia flower. You know, gardenias, that was Master's favorite flower. It has that beautiful aroma and fragrance. And Swamiji, it was this very simple exchange. He said, "Oh, Bet, this is my friend Phil." And I was like a deer in headlights. You know how people used to say, well, Swami on the joy tours would say, "Good morning, great souls." And people would kind of look around like, who is he talking to? Right? That's how I felt. I was like, whoa, what did he say? He considers me his friend? He's my friend. He's my divine friend. But you see, that's the greatness of the great ones, is they help draw out our own divine potential. Of course, I'm his friend. And if I'm his friend, then like Master said to another disciple, learn to behave accordingly. He was trying to invite us through inspiration. Like Master said, you have to live. Why not live in the right way? And Swami made that right way of living so inspiring. So it was magnetic. You were drawn into it. Right? That's why I was astounded by the topic of today's service, because that was his whole way of being. Bringing Mary into Martha, bringing the joy of God into activity. He wasn't, one of his spiritual caliber could have just left the world, right? And just gone off on his own spiritual quest. But he was constantly trying to share. Just like that, the metaphor of the receiving the light, of being a gardener of self-realization, bringing that light, bringing that rain of divine grace into leadership, into education, into music, into the arts. Of course, leading all those tributary waters back into the central stream of love for God, of I am a disciple. And that's all he wanted to be known as. And the temptation we have is to put Swami, put the great ones up on a pedestal. They don't want to be up on a pedestal. They want us to join them, right, in the caravan of prayer, in the joy of dedicating oneself to God. We lose that in the battle din of activity, right? That's the challenge that we all face. There was a satsang recently here with Nayaswami Jyotish and Devi, 6 months or so ago. And someone asked, it was a Martha or Mary question, someone asked, there's so much service, we're so active here, how do we maintain ourselves amidst all this activity? And Jyotish gave this beautiful answer. He said, don't forget the Ananda in Ananda Seva. Right? That our whole life is to be centered around that divine joy. If we forget that divine joy, if we forget that peace, like Martha, we miss the point. This is one of the big impediments on the path, is we miss the point. But the point that Swami is trying to remind us of is that joy. And one of the hallmarks of his temperament was enthusiasm and saying yes to life. I wanted to share, there was just one little quote from Swami on say yes to life. Say yes to life. In everyone, two voices compete. The one is life-affirming, the the other life-negating. Be open to the yes-saying influence. When faced with any new opportunity, ask yourself, how can I make it a reality? Shun the tendency of so many people to enumerate all the reasons why a new idea could not possibly work. That was Swami's essence, that he was always positive, always looking for the solution and trying to find the joy within every situation. And I'll just share this one other example. When I first met Swami, he was taking the Queen Elizabeth, this big ship from Europe to America at that time, because it was thought that it would be better for his health not to fly, so he took the boat. And at that time I was working in New York, and I was involved in this sales training program. It had a funny name. It was called Prepare to Sell. And the tagline was really cheesy. It was, when you prepare to sell, you do. so anyway, that was in the back of my mind. I'm sharing that for a reason. So when I first met Swami, the very first conversation I had with him, he was giving a program in Rhode Island. I think it was for Hope for a Better World, the new book that he had written at that time. And he just looked at me with such sweetness, such kindness. And he said 4 words, "Will you be coming?" And I just answered, "Yes, sir, of course I was coming." But in the background of my mind, I thought, oh my God, he's asking me a commitment question because I've been taking this sales training program. He's closing me. But what I realized, of course, is that he was opening my heart. Open your heart to me, and I will enter and take charge of your life. Why not? Why don't we open our hearts to God? Why don't we dedicate our lives to God? And we too, we can give the greatest birthday gift to Swamiji, is being a part of the bouquet of souls on the altar of self-realization. God bless you.
Come here while I sing you of emerald hills, of valleys and meadows so fair, that all who have seen them have carried away memories in their hearts, friends, like the lilacs of May. Oh, my song is the story of the lilacs of May. My song is the story of deer on the hills, of larks that soar seeking the sun, of nightingales lifting the curtain of night, as with music they bring down heaven's blessing of light. Oh, my song is the story of God's blessing of light. Come join me in singing of the emerald isle, of flowers that like jewels besprinkle the lea, of waterfalls eager to embrace the white sea, as we with our Maker united would be, as we with our Maker reunited. tales of valleys and meadows so fair, that all who have seen them have carried away memories in their hearts, friends, like the lilacs of May. Oh, my song is the story